guys, it's Miss Reed. Today is Monday, May 11th, and today we're on American Revolution Lesson 6. Apologies in advance if my dogs bark in this video because they're just barking constantly today. Today we don't have any additional reading, but we are going to focus heavily on subject and action verb agreements in the present tense, and we are going to focus on the prefixes in and in when they're added to words. So hopefully this is review for you. You should have learned this in 2nd and 3rd grade, maybe even younger, but this is a really helpful video. It's only a few minutes long on BrainPop about subject and verb agreement. So take the time right now, pause me, and watch this video on BrainPop. The login and the password is at the bottom of the page. It's going to be very helpful for you to watch this video before we get into me going over subject-verb agreement. Okay, so now that you've watched the BrainPop video, this is probably fresh in your brain. So this is review. So when we talk about the subject of a sentence, we mean the subject. When we talk about the subject, we're saying who or what a sentence is about. So these are different examples, and each of the subjects in the sentence is in blue font. So example 1, Miss Reed likes to walk outside. Miss Reed is the subject or who the sentence is about. So if I asked you who the subject was of that sentence, you would say Miss Reed. She's the person doing something or who the sentence is about. The second one, the dog plays fetch with his owner. In this sentence, yeah, there's a dog and there's an owner, but the who or what, the dog is actually the subject because the dog is the person doing something. The sentence is about the dog. So don't get confused because there's more than one noun or person, place, or thing in the sentence. Ask yourself who or what is actually doing something in that sentence, and that will give you the subject. And the last example is the book is really boring. Who or what is doing something, even though it's a thing, technically it's about the book. The book is the who or what. That is the subject. So those are the subjects of our sentence. Real quick, verbs. So we're going to focus mostly on action verbs and not on linking and being verbs. We'll talk a little bit more about those eventually. But for today, a verb, just review, this is literally from like 2nd, 1st grade probably. A verb tells what the subject is or does. It's usually an action. We're going to be working pretty much only with action verbs today, so it'll be kind of obvious what the verb is in each sentence. So, number 1, example, and all the verbs in these sentences, all the actions, are in blue, so you can see them. They're easy to point out. Maddie chases after the birds. Chases is the action. An easy thing to ask yourself when you're trying to figure out the verb is like what's happening, like what is the verb, like what is Maddie doing. If you already know the subject, and the subject in the sentence is Maddie because she's who the sentence is about, chases, what is Maddie doing, or what is Maddie? Chases, right? So Maddie is the verb, that's the action in the sentence. Number 2, Mr. G laughs loudly. In this sentence, what is Mr. G, the subject, doing? He's laughing, right? So laughing is the verb in this sentence. And the door slammed loudly. Slammed is the verb. It's what the subject is actually doing. So the door, what's the door doing? It's slamming. Slammed is the verb or the action in a sentence. So again, this should hopefully be review and easy stuff for you. Again, this may or may not be review for you, but it's important to do singular versus plural subjects. Obviously, a singular subject refers to only one person, place, or thing. So these are all the subjects in these sentences. The man yells. He's singular subject because there's only one man. So singular just means there's one of something, right? Like single means one. So that's all it means. Like if you're talking about a subject, singular subject means you're only talking about one person, place, or thing. Another example, Miss Mo walks. Miss Mo is a singular subject because I'm not saying Miss Mo's. I'm not talking about more than one Miss Mo, right? There's just one Miss Mo, and she's doing something. And the book was exciting. I'm only talking about one book, so that's a singular subject. So remember, a singular subject is the who or what in the sentence that's doing something, but it's only one person, place, or thing. Now, a plural subject, as you can imagine, plural means more than one, multiple of something, refers to more than one person, place, or thing that's doing something. So, example, the ducks quack. So obviously, ducks, there's more than one in a sentence, so it's considered a plural subject. They are the who or what are doing something, but there's more than one. There's 2 or more. The kids want to play outside. Kids, again, more than one, plural subject. Those stores close at 9. Stores obviously has an S on it, right? So that's more than one. Remember, sometimes Plural nouns won't have S's on them, so you got to be careful and make sure you read carefully. But remember, plural, more than one, singular, one. Pretty simple to remember. Now, this is what we're really going to be focusing on today, and you're going to be practicing, is subject-verb agreement rules. So, in every sentence, the subject, the who or what the sentence is about, and the verb, the action, usually, must make sense or work together. First, you have to figure out whether the subject is singular or plural. So, whenever you're trying to write the sentence, you have to figure out first, am I talking about one person, place, or thing, or am I talking about two or more people, places, or things? This is the rule. Usually, if it's a singular noun, you're usually just going to add S to the verb. So, for all these rules, this is what you're doing to the verb in this sentence. You're not doing anything to the noun. You're just doing something to the verb or the action. So, example right here, the farmer, right? The farmer is only one farmer. It doesn't have the farmers, it's one. So if our verb is plow, we're trying to say that he's going to plow the fields. The farmer plows his field, right? So we add an S to that. And it'll make sense to you when you hear it, especially with the singular and plural, because you wouldn't say the farmer plow his field, right? It sounds like absolutely crazy. So you know that you automatically put an S on that because it's a singular subject and verb. Now, the only thing that gets complicated is when we have verbs that end in certain letters, and there's different rules for them. So if a verb ends in S, SH, CH, X, or Z, you add ES. So an example of that, the government passed laws. The government passes laws. So notice we didn't add an S because that would look crazy. If you had like 3 S's there, it'd be like the government passed laws. So we have to add an ES onto it. So it makes sense when you see it and look at it, but it's kind of confusing when you have all these different rules you have to follow that like you do naturally anyway. So again, if you have a verb that ends in a Y, like cry, right, you're going to change the Y to an I and add ES. This, again, is only for singular subjects, so only when you talk about one person, place, or thing. So in this sentence, Paul Revere spy on the British soldiers. So we have to add an S, but that's not how we would spell spies, so we have to drop the Y, add an I, and put ES. So Paul Revere spies on the British soldiers. Now, those are all the rules for singular. It's really simple when you have a plural subject. So we're like talking about the cats, the dogs, the kids. The verb doesn't change. So right here, example, the colonists, talking about more than one colonist, fights for their independence. The fight doesn't change. We wouldn't say the colonist fights for their independence. It sounds kind of crazy. So you can see how you naturally say these things anyway when we talk. So you just have to kind of think about it and follow the rules. The one that's the most complicated is just the spelling. That's the only thing that's kind of confusing. It can be confusing. So we're going to do a little practice. You're also going to have something like this on your worksheet today to do on Google Docs. So the subject, the king, action, verb, rule. So if I was going to say the king, rule, the kingdom, that doesn't sound right, right? So the king rules. Remember the rules to add S. The king rules the kingdom. Usually, if it's singular, we're just going to add S to the verb. The king and queen rule the kingdom. So I'm talking about the king and queen. So I'm talking about more than one person, place, or thing in my subject. So the king and queen rules the kingdom? No. So there's more than one. I know that my rule, if I check back, plural, the verb does not change. So it's going to be the king and queen rule. The next subject is the soldier. So we're just talking about one soldier. So the verb is march. So I know now one soldier, it's only singular, so there's one, but I know that it ends in CH, so there's a rule I have to follow. So verbs ending in CH, I put an ES on the end of it. I don't just put an S, and you can see when you would like look at it too, it looks weird. So the soldier march, like see that's not a word, march. Like it's gonna even like tell me, like you can see the red on there, it looks crazy. So the soldier marches. So you put an ES on the end of it. The soldiers march. There's more than one soldier. So remember our rule is for plural as always the verb does not change. You're gonna keep it the same. So it's just gonna be the soldiers march. The colonists try. So the colonist, there's only one, there's an S on it. But this ends in a Y, and I remember there's a rule that we have to do something kind of funky when we have a Y. We have to change the Y to an I and add an ES. So the colonist try, I'm going to take that Y, change it to I, add an ES. The colonist tries. The colonist is plural. Try, remember, if it's a plural subject, the verb does not change. So it's going to be the colonist try. We're not going to do anything to that verb. So now you are going to do the same type of thing in your Google Doc. So you can see here I've done the first two for you. The first thing you need to figure out is whether or not a subject is singular or plural, and then what needs to be added or not added to the verb based off of whether or not it's singular or plural. So you're going to do that right now. After you finish that, or you could do that, you could say that for the end if you want, but make sure you keep going back to the chart. It's going to help you. Morphology, we're just going to talk about today the prefixes in and im. They literally mean the exact same thing when they're added to the beginning of a word. They mean not. The only reason that you choose, you pick im instead of in is because of the spelling of the word. So the prefix im is added to the beginning of words with the letters m, p, and b. So if we're saying possible, but we want to say it's not possible, we want to change the meaning to something that's not possible, we'd say impossible, I am possible, because it begins with a P. Not impossible. I know that that's something that people like get wrong a lot, but remember, just because it begins with a P, you're going to write I am, impossible. The next one, in, means the exact same thing, and it's added to the beginning of words like everything else, basically. So if it doesn't begin with M, P, and B, you're going to put in instead of im. So correct. If you want to say something is not correct, you would say incorrect, not im. So in, incorrect. These are examples of root words that have either im or in affixed to them to change their meaning. So example, perfect. If we want to change, so perfect means having no mistakes or flaws. If we want to say that something is not perfect or it has mistakes or flaws, we would change it to imperfect, because remember it begins with a P, so we're going to put im on it. Make sure you go through each of these to read the definition: perfect, practical, patient, polite. These are examples, we're going to use these frequently too throughout the next couple of weeks in this unit, of words that would get the in prefix. So example, convenient, allowing you to do something easily or without much trouble. If we wanted to say something was the opposite of that, or it was not convenient, we would use the prefix inconvenient, because it begins with something other than M, B, or P. Now, make sure you do the Google form. You're going to be using each of these words, the affixed words and the not affixed words, to answer the questions. Make sure you watch this Liberty Kids video about the shot heard around the world. Remember, you need to complete both the document and the form in order to get an entry into the raffle. So make sure you're doing your best work. If you're getting, if there's 15 points to be had and you're getting 1 out of 15, you're not going to be able to be entered into the raffle, because I know you're not doing your best work. So do your best work.